Hi guys, right, quick talking to my screen sort of moment for this video. This was filmed over 2 days, and this video is a great example of how it can all go horribly wrong, especially when you make assumptions. I won't go into what goes wrong here, but I'll cover it in the subtitles and that in the actual video. Needless to say, this should have been a maybe 15-minute job the way I'd planned it. I've done these installs in many vehicles. There's nothing scary or unusual in this. It's all simple electronics. Unfortunately, there's a Range Rover P38 involved. Enjoy! Hi guys, right, quick and dirty one. I need to do this part of this video now because I actually want to go and do the job. This is a P38 one. So I, like many P38 owners, have had no end of trouble with my passive immobiliser and my remotes. The long side is the immobilisers, the short story, is the immobiliser is sorted, but I've lost my remote central locking, which is a royal pain in the backside. So I have gone out and got a drastic, cheapy door opener. Now, normally you would install these under the dashboard and wire into the easiest target is normally the central locking switch for the car, which, as you P38 owners know, there isn't one. So the next logical target is to go for the BECM. You can't do that either, not easily anyway. So this has got to go into the door, which means we need to look at the door out stations. So what we're looking at in particular is the door lock itself. So just make sure you can see where I am, and you can. I've got the door outstation diagram in front of me, and it's off screen, it's easily available, but we've got 3 contacts in the door lock mechanism, and we want to pick these up. What I've seen some people do is actually cut the pink and black, and not sure what the other colour was. It was pink and black and orange and black that feed the lock motor, which is great. That's wonderful. However, I've then seen reports of people getting the vehicle immobilised because what the BECM interprets seeing that motor move as is the door being manually locked and unlocked because it didn't command the motor to go anywhere. What we want to do is we want the BECM to see that the key switch was moved, which means we need to go across the key switch contacts. We want open and close, so I believe the ones we are looking for is switch labelled number 1, number 2 on the diagram, which we've also got an auxiliary input on there, so that looks like green and red and U and R. No idea what they are, and what they do. So we've got green and red, we've got something else in red. What would you be? No idea. It's probably in there in the road diagram somewhere. These come down to 2 switches. One is central door lock, and one is the key switch. And then they go off to a ground supplied by the outstation. So the way I understand it, and I could be wrong, I will meter this out, but I don't think I am, is GR, which is central door locking. That will close to lock, that will close to unlock. And obviously these are used for your EKA as well. And what we've got here is basically a remote control box with a couple of relays in it. So all we tend to get on the back is a rough guide to how it all goes together, but we've got here the relays. Now what we want to do is splice into these like that, and then we'll come down to our relays, and we will quite simply put those relays, we don't use that pin, we don't use that pin, and we'll pull these 2 down to ground. So those 2 relays are now across there, which should allow us to lock and unlock the door. It may not work, this video may never actually get there. So essentially we're not going to need too much. We're also going to want to be looking at the supply for the door outstation, which is purple and blue and black. So purple and blue equals the positive and black is ground. Be a really good place to put the tracker I've got for the vehicle, but I'm not going to. I'm going to tell you lot where I've put my tracker. So we've got a wiring diagram of sorts here of how it all goes together in there. Let's just zoom down. No, phone is being funny. There we go. So we've got just here what we want. We don't want some of the pins on here. We want to keep this nice and neat. So just double check what we've got here, because these are not particularly well. Yeah, it's Chinese. So the normally closed contacts we're not going to use. So what I'm going to do is pull these out. I've already done that one, and we can do the same by there's a little tab in there, push in, pull the wire out. It just makes things neater. So we get rid of those, and then we've also got here window rising output, which is green. We're not going to want that. So we'll pop that one out as well. We've got a purple output to parking lights, which is actually brown. Confused me for a second, so we'll get rid of that. So that leaves us with 4 relay outputs. Now what we're then going to do is tie these two together. What I would do, if only all my cutters had gone. Obviously we want to keep everything as neat as we can. Ignore the avalanche. Cut those two. That's our ground for our relay. We'll cut the actual ground wire as well. So we'd strip all of those, solder those all together, solder the ground on, and we're down to just over 5 wires. These two here, when they're soldered together, go off to the purple and blue and black on the door outstation. I don't mean that. I mean these two, sorry. This one, which is the trunk opening, that provides a switched ground, which is exactly what the boot button provides. So what I'll be doing is seeing if there is an easy way to get into the wiring harness and up along under the sill panels and into the boot, and I'll see if I can make the trunk release work. Quite possibly we won't, but it would be nice to have it working. So what I need to do now is solder all of these together, heat shrink everything, cut these down to sensible length. I will probably not leave the fuse in here. I'll probably take the fuse out, just solely because the last thing I want is fuse inside the door card. I doubt this will use enough power. I will do a quick check to cause any battery problems, but hopefully once that's in, not only will I have my central locking back, but in theory it should be possible to put the EKA in this way as well. So next time I pick up with you, we'll be taking the door apart. So let's go. Hey guys, right, we're back at looking at my remote central locking system. I've taken the door card off. If you don't know how the door card comes off, there's plenty of places that do detail it. I am outside now, so there's going to be a lot of background noise. So what we're looking for now is this module here. We need to find a couple of wires in there, and what we're going to use is something I found purely by chance watching the South Main Auto channel with Eric O. If you guys have never seen these before, focus. These are awesome little things. Eric has going to focus. Eric has similar ones. I've got another set the same as the ones that he uses, which screw down. These are just cheapy ones. As you can see, you've got a little needle there that moves through that gap, and what we do is we put that on a wire, tighten that down, the needle pierces the wire, we can probe the wire without actually causing any problems. So I'm just going to pause you and move you so you can see the door outstation, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find these power wires that we need. Right, so according to my diagram we are looking for purple and something and black. So what we do, grab our meter. Let's just work out where I can put the meter that you'll be able to see it. There isn't anywhere. And we'll grab a couple of test leads. We've got to be careful because obviously the BECM on these switches stuff on and off as it pleases, so we don't really want to go for anything that we think the BECM is going to switch off. Now the outstation has a fairly chunky power supply coming up to it, which I believe is always on. Just untangle the leads. So we've got purple and blue and black that we're looking for, so that should be easy. So we will just go into the meter. So I don't think there's anywhere I can put this that you'll be able to see it. That work? Oh, somebody's cooking chicken. How about that? Can we go zoom out a bit? Zoom out a bit more. It's going to make it quite difficult for you to see what I'm actually doing as well. So, for our ground, apparently we're going for black. That's not a difficult one. There is a big heavy black right there. So we slide that forward and then just push that in until it locks again. So if I get a continuity now, the theory says, don't know how good the door earth is. Yeah, not great. But we have a ground, sort of. Right, apparently we want purple and blue. There is a very large purple and blue wire right here, which I suspect is ours. So again, separate the wire out from the bundle, put the clip over, make sure you get the wire you actually want, and just pop that in. 12.17 volts. So that is definitely the one we want. We're also going to cut the super lock mechanism as well while we're in here. I need to look up exactly which cable that is. Those of you that don't know these vehicles, one of the problems with these is because they're now old and a bit cranky, something will upset the system. It will super lock, and quite often, because they're not used often, this is the point that you find out that the super locking system is busted. The only way to get in and resolve that is literally through the door card, and of course when the door's closed everything's clamped back here, so not useful. So that's where we're going to take our power from. That's good. So I now need to be looking for some different colours. We'll pop a bit of compound to cut to fill those holes up. So get my notepad out. We have GR and UR. I can't remember what we decided those were. Something in red, and orange and red, I think it was. I might have to pause you while I find out exactly what those colours were. Bear with me. Right, sorry about that. Right, the wires we want are here. These are green and red and burn red. So we are going to pop these on. First thing we need to do is make sure that these two wires behave the way that we expect them to, which is a ground on one will lock and a ground on the other will unlock. The pink here I believe is a super lock, which we're going to delete by quite simply removing it. So that's one in. Obviously we will be stripping these. Soldering on properly, so This is where I super lock my car. So one should unlock. One should lock, hopefully. Well, that's a resounding success. So this isn't working as intending. The two wires I've identified are signals to say that the state of the door lock has changed and what the door lock's doing. So we can't go from there. But it obviously means that's not the signals from the key switch. So I'm going to stop for a bit. It is starting to rain, so I'm going to pack the camera out of the way. And I'm going to have a quick look at the door micro switch and see if we can see how that works. Alright, back again. What it comes down to is the car's too intelligent for its own good, but anyone that knows these cars knows about this. So what happens is if the green wire is grounded, then the blue wire will unlock. If the green wire is floating, the blue wire will lock. That's great, we can make that work, that's not a problem. Not least of which because the green wire will be doing whatever it needs to be doing through the lock. It just means that the alarm fob would basically press to lock, press to unlock. The biggest problem we've got is the outstation is intelligent enough to know whether it commanded the lock or whether another door commanded the lock. And if it was commanded by this outstation, then it won't fire the lock motor. So realistically, I wanted to avoid it, but it looks like the only thing we can possibly do here is fire the lock motors ourselves. So I'm just going to try that, try a quick bit of wiring and see what happens if we fire the locks off and if that's a way of doing it. Oh, this is really awkward because I'm leaning across the vehicle. Right, just a quick check to make sure the lock motors work the way we expected. So open, and we drive it down in reverse and close, we pull it that way. So what we need to do now is pull those motors. So let me go get a 12 volt source and see if manually triggering that motor works for it. Bit more testing done before we applied power, which is good news. Right, our problem is here is that when the motor is parked, both sides of the motor are shorted together. So yeah, I either need to now come up with a way of breaking the connection to the door outstation from the motor when we want to do something with it, which is non-trivial, or we need to start looking at taking the outstation apart and doing a bit of rewiring in the outstation. The third option is we learn to speak outstation. Now I do have the ability to capture the data stream between the outstation and the BECM. That's going to be a non-trivial way of doing it, probably the best way of doing it, to be honest, but still non-trivial, because then we can say that another door is causing the lock, or even the lock is coming from the remote control. So yeah, need to stop and think about this one now. So I'm going to pause and I'll take a quick photo and I'll go indoors and grab one of my scrap door outstations and see what we can learn. So here we have a door outstation apart. This relay here is our target. Now this relay is internally two wired together and they act as a double pole double throw switch. You do have two coils, which is great, because it means we can energize either contact depending on what we need to do. I'm guessing I will need to have a look at the datasheet for the relay. There's going to be basically an unlock signal and a lock signal. These are going to be this pin and this pin. These go up the board, and I know this board is awful, that's why it's not in a vehicle. These go up the board, and from what I can tell, they are driven directly, possibly by this here. I need to check what that is. Once we know what that is, and we know what signals we need for the relay, what we might be able to do is, assuming these are 5 volt coils, which would be really nice, we have a 5 volt regulator up here, and we can pull whichever one of those coils we need off that 5 volt regulator, or if they're common 5 volts and they need ground, we can do it the other way. So we need to find that out now. I'm going to take this upstairs, grab a cup of coffee and reverse engineer this. I will take the harness for the alarm up with me as well. The great thing about this is the we're commanding the motor, which is going to lock the door. At this point, the door outstation doesn't know where that lock came from, so it's going to assume that that lock came from the key lock. Well, that's the plan anyway. I'm going to make sure this outstation works. If it does, we'll work with this outstation, because quite frankly I'd really not want to screw up my one. And if it does, we'll go upstairs and we'll look about what we need to wire where to get that relay to activate without the outstation knowing who did it, which should command the door to lock. The outstation will assume that because it didn't command the motor, but that the door has been locked manually, and should command everything else to lock. I wanted to avoid actually going to the level of having to customise the outstation, but if that's the way we've got to do it, that's the way we've got to do it. Right, it's freehand time. You'll have to excuse the state of my bench, but I've got a lot going on at the moment. Right, so we have, where are we? These two terminals are on lock, and these two terminals are unlock. This terminal is positive 12 volts. This terminal is positive 12 volts, so we need to ground this terminal to lock and this terminal to unlock. So that's fairly simple, no problems there. We have positive 12 volts, permanent positive 12 volt supply here, so we need to track that back and find out where on this connector it comes. That will be the purple and blue, I believe. And we've got a good ground just here. So we need to go ground, 12 volts up here, unlock, unlock. So that should be fairly simple. And what we'll do is we will wire the harness for central locking in, and I'll make a hole inside of the door outstation for it, and hopefully we'll be good. I also need to work out which one of those is lock and unlock on the central locking unit. So I'm going to do that, get some connections, we'll come back when it's all wired up. So a quick look at what's happened here then. As you can see, wires are all attached and they're all glued down. So we have our positive supply, we have our two control lines, we have our ground here. They're snaked out the top. I made sure the top fits on and they run out to the control unit. I have also joined this wire from the control unit, which is the trunk release, or boot release, sorry. That provides a ground signal, which is exactly what the button on the boot release does. So I'm going to try and thread that through the door jamb, and sorry, the door jamb, to the conduit in the door, and so it's just above the pedals, and then at some point I can run that through to the back. So let's put the lid on and go make sure it works, and then we'll start putting things back together. Right, we're all in. Let's see what happens. Find which pocket I put the keys in. There we go. So lock, unlock. Because this hasn't seen a lock come via the door key, which is what one of the micro switches is, this won't arm the alarm. I'm going to make two changes to this door, which will enable that to work, which you should be able to work out yourself quite easily. And I'm also going to make a safety change to the door as well, the actual way the door goes together, for obvious reasons. Everyone knows this vehicle. You guys are watching this on YouTube, so I don't want the actual details of the changes I've made to activate the security public on the net. If you watch what we've done and know what we go through, you'll know what I need to do. You just won't know how I've done it. And if you look at the circuit diagrams, you look at what I've done, it is easy to work out how to get the security system to arm as well. But I'm not going to make it that easy for anyone that might want to take my car for a walk. So right, now the next challenge is to find somewhere for that control box to live, try and thread that boot trigger wire through, and then we'll put the door back together. Right, we're in. I'm hoping where that is just tacked on that harness should be okay. There's not a lot of space in here. I could probably drill somewhere to screw that in, but where it is, it shouldn't be a problem. All the cables are out of the way. The boot release cable is through there. However, there is a grommet on the other side, which means destroying most of the side of the dashboard to get to that. So for now, there's the excess tucked away and the end is isolated. It's sleeved in there, but my understanding is this end panel, which doesn't come off, would need to come off. Oh, sorry, too to zoom in. And then way up there, which you can't see, sorry, is a grommet through the door, so that's got to come off. Let's zoom you out a bit. So that's got to come off. Obviously the bottom of the dash has got to come off. That sill plate's probably got to come off. Probably for the sake of making things easier, the wiring loom retainer's got to come off, and various other things. Oh, that's quite mashed. That'll be why that doesn't work. I found some dodgy wiring that I've eliminated as well. I don't think, even if I turn the light on, I don't think you'll be able to see in there. No. So yeah, put the door back together. It still works, and then hopefully we're done. And there we go. Mostly done. Just dashboard put back together now. Hi, back again. I hope you enjoyed that. Just going to have a look at a few things quickly. The P38 is a very complex car, even for a car of the age it is. Some of the decisions don't make a lot of sense, some of them do. There's a lot of over-intelligence, and one of the upshots of this is it's actually quite difficult to steal these cars. Generally, these are one of the cars where you need the keys for, and 20 years ago, that's not a bad achievement. So, what I've got here is the wiring diagram for the central locking. And what we've got here is 1, which is marked as CDL switch, and 2 is a key switch. So, the way these appear to work is that your central door locking switch indicates the state of your door. So I believe 0 or open will indicate that the door is unlocked, and 1 or closed would indicate the door is locked, and then 2 is used by the key switch to toggle the state of the door. So if you've got problems with your EKA, entering your EKA on the door, it's going to be one of these two, and it's actually going to be number 2 that's probably going to be causing you problems. But it does mean that we were obviously unable to do what we do. The car alarm, this is what's called a state system. So if you imagine your key as a clock, and each time you get a pulse of the clock, which will be the U-turn and key switch, it changes the state of the system, which is switch number 1 here. That's quite difficult to emulate using that door controller. I could have done it with a bit of custom electronics. I may still go back and do it. If I'm going to the length of custom electronics to say we already know how to speak BECM, so we may be able to do it that way. But yeah, the system as it is now works. It's nearly 2 weeks later, it still works. There does appear to be an issue with BECM going to sleep. It's happened once. I've not seen it again. Now this could be an indication of a bigger problem with my vehicle, with the BECM not sleeping the way it should do. But it does appear that the key fob is on the same frequency as the original Rover key fob, which wakes the BECM up. So it's happened a couple of times when I've been probably too far out of range for one, but not the other. But it's a good solution. It does work. It means that my car is getting locked every night as it should do, rather than me forgetting to do it or just not being bothered to do it, which is a great thing. I have made a modification that means that the alarm will arm if the door is locked from the key fob when the door is closed, which is great. You shouldn't be doing it any other way, and there's no point having an alarm on the door open. So it's a good example of, I've got more, how do I say this? I've got more experience of other cars with much simpler electrical systems, mainly Type 85 Audis and similar. And there's just no need for this level of complexity. Obviously, Rover thought there was, but it makes some of these modifications that most people assume are going to be quick and easy quite difficult to do. One aside, I mentioned the super lock. This wire here is the one you cut to kill the super lock. Now, you'd either want to do that on one door or both doors. Obviously, potentially, if you disable the super locking, there is an insurance Possibly an insurance effect of doing it. Obviously, they've got to take the door apart and discover that that's been done. You could, in theory, do it by taking out a track in the door out station as well. How you do it and if you do it is up to you. I've actually left my super locks intact because during the process of shooting the video, I did trip the super locks and they came off when they were commanded. So I know the locks are good. I know I've got fairly new locks on those doors anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. Anyway, enough of this rambling, and I will sign off now, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much. Bye.